Well, thanks a lot. Thank you everyone for coming. I knew that this panel was going to be a complete success, first because of the quality of the speakers, then because of the topic that is really interesting, and also is the room is almost full. That is also amazing because yesterday was Thursday in Madrid with a lot of parties, so thank you everyone for attending. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Manuel Alamillo. I am Investment Director at Clean Energy Transition Fund. It's a €200 million fund that invests only in energy transition startups. So this is why I have ended up here being moderator. And I have to say that I'm honored because I'm surrounded by a lot of talent and I'm a little bit nervous, so let me introduce themselves. First, we've got Daniel Santa Cruz. Daniel Santa Cruz is a physicist. He has been working as engineer, and now he's devoted to the innovation activities. First, he started, well, he's been 14 years working in the wind industry, first in Iberdrola, and now in Ocean Winds in the offshore industry. And Ocean Winds is a joint venture between EDP and Engie. Then we've got Enrique Santa Cruz. Enrique Santa Cruz is, Fernandez, sorry. Enrique is also engineer from ICAI and also economist. He started 10 years in Arthur Andersen, but then he moved to Repsol. In 2021, he's the Chief Digital Officer of the company, and since 2017, he's been in charge of the digitalization process that Repsol has been carried out. And well, I don't need to explain what is Repsol, but the activities that Enrique is carrying out in Repsol are key for the decarbonization of and getting the goals of decarbonizing that Repsol is having. And lastly, José Benjumea. José Benjumea is studying business and law. He's a serial entrepreneur. He has founded four companies in the renewable space: Fotovatio, FRV, Powen, and also Vembros. So he's been 17 years supporting the energy transition. And lastly, he's also member of the board of the Rio Tinto Foundation and protector of the Permanent Observatory of Hispanism within the Duque de Soria Foundation. So thank you very much all for attending this panel. And the first question I've got obviously is the title of the panel, and I would like to better understand for you what is infrastructure digitalization and why this is key for the energy transition. So this question, Daniel will start.
Yeah, so what we do at Ocean Winds is we design, install, and operate wind farms at the sea. And because the theme of this conference is decoding complexity, I'm explaining in very basic terms what an offshore wind farm is. We first put foundations, which are massive steel structures in the sea that are attached to the seabed. On top of that, we put wind turbines, huge wind turbines, and then we put some cables that link turbines between each other, and then with an offshore substation, electrical substation, and then a cable from the substation to the land. And then we produce the energy with the wind, and we move it to the land, so to the consumption areas. Okay, so this is infrastructure, pure infrastructure. Offshore wind or offshore wind farms are, I would say, the key for energy transition, or one of the most important keys for energy transition, because, well, where we are trying to phase out fossil fuels energy production, we need to replace that with something, because we are, as humans, our society, we are consuming energy every day. So, and I think one of the few ways of replacing big fossil fuel power plants is to do it with renewables at scale. And that's where offshore wind comes into place, because we can produce energy with, we can install power sufficient to replace these huge fossil fuel power plants. So for you to make an idea, our projects can be of hundreds of megawatts or even thousands of megawatts. That's, for you to understand, the same power, the same installed power as a medium-sized nuclear power plant. So in each of our projects, we are building huge power generation. So I think key infrastructure for energy transition, because it also enables other industries to consume renewable power.
Okay, Enrique, your case?
Well, I'm going to dedicate more space to digitalization, which is the second part of the title. As you mentioned, you know probably in the room and online Repsol. but let me say, perhaps you don't know all the different aspects of Repsol. There are some funny facts that not many people know. We are the largest bakery in Spain, not very known. We are the second largest sunglasses seller, close to the first one this summer. It means that we have a great linkage with the customer, no? And that is something that makes us very powerful in order to gear one of the key levers in energy transition, which is the behavior of the customer also. No? But we'll speak about that later on a little bit. We, at Repsol, we were in 2019 the first company in our sector to pledge net zero. We stated our commitment to be net zero for 2050. And as our CEO says, we don't know who of us is going to be there for 2050, so it seems very easy to make a pledge on neutrality for that date. What is really relevant for that date is that there is a commitment with intermediate steps in year 2020, 25, 30, 40, and 50 that we are in fact reviewing and increasing over the time. No later than 2 years after that pledge and that commitment, we increase the intermediate commitments for that pledge. There's also an interesting fact, which is that with the current technology, we still don't know 100% how are we going to get that neutrality. There is a space that we still need technology to evolve, and different technologies. And the fact that digitalization has a key play to role in this neutrality is a fact. We've been in a digitalization program for the company for the last 5 years. There are mainly two big aspects in digital in Repsol. There's one industrial and manufacturing digitalization. We have to do with power plants, with refineries, with our installations, with our energy sources, and everything that you can make there in order to be more productive and more energy efficient in your activities is going to reduce your footprint, absolutely. But there is also a commercial digitalization linked to the customer, and everything that you can do in order to make that customer more aware of their energy habits and the behaviors and their footprint of the energy that they are consuming, how can be compensated on everything, can be reduced in certain ways, is also very powerful. No? And there's new business models also that can be unlocked by means of digital, like the solar farms or the solar communities like SolMatch or Solify, which are our initial thoughts and early projects on there. So in my vision, digitalization and energy transition, they are very much linked. More than one half of the initiatives that we are currently taking are related also with decarbonization objectives.
Thanks. And lastly, Jose, you can talk whatever you want. Having founded 4 companies, you can talk about infrastructure, digitalization.
Well, I think we are facing the third industrial revolution. And for me, that's the main thing that we are facing right now. And it's going to take 20 years. It's a huge opportunity. We have 3 key elements in this third industrial revolution, that is renewable energy, mobility, mainly the electric vehicle, and third, the big data, the artificial intelligence. And these 3 components are going to create this third industrial revolution. So infrastructure is essential because we need to get the wind, the sun, and convert it in kilowatt or in hydrogen or wherever. So we need to do this transformation of energy from those sources. And secondly, it changed everything in the way we understand energy. Right now we have the generation of electricity, the transport, the customer, and all things is going to change and become circular. So digitalization is essential to really put all these sources, all the self-consumption, solar PV, wind, with the customer, with the storage, everything together. No? So I think this is, for me, the main idea. That's why infrastructure and digitalization is essential. But the good news is this is an amazing opportunity to create startups, to do many things, because people who has been in this market, in the energy market and in the digitalization, really don't have the solution for the the new challenges that we have. No? So I think it's a wonderful moment really for entrepreneurs to create new companies and to give to final customer solutions.
Thank you, Jose. Completely agree with all of you in your answers. Now, moving, you have mentioned a little bit what your companies are doing in this infrastructure and digitalization world. What are the next big things that you are going to bring to the market, or what are you doing for this energy transition? If you can put some real examples so everyone could understand it better, it would be great. Let me start this time with Enrique.
You ask about the next big thing, and let me be a little bit changing a little bit the scene, because perhaps in our case it's not a matter of one single shot on a big movement. I mean, there are big things going on in the company. We, again, not many people know that we are the largest producer and consumer of hydrogen so far in the Iberian Peninsula. No? We have more than 60% of the market share in hydrogen, and our commitment with green hydrogen is very clear. We, by 2030, going to be like almost 2 gigawatts of renewable hydrogen there, with more 2.5 billion euros investments there. So that's something big, but it's not happening right now. It's happening right now, but it's going to take some time, because one of the things in infrastructure and digitalization is those things takes time. No? Thinking in terms of digital products, our portfolio includes nearly 400 initiatives, 370 in fact. And 170 are related with decarbonization. Let me point some, because those are maybe not so big, but smaller, but also very relevant. No? I mentioned individual people behaviors. No? You can compensate every time that you refill your tank with our app, Wilet, you are offered the opportunity to compensate the footprint of that refilling. By the way, half price of what you can get, because 50% of that is taken by the company, so that's a voluntary compensation, but it's offered at your fingerprint just after that you pay there, that you refill. We mentioned also the Sol Match initiative with those solar communities matching the producers of people holding roofs with space for bringing panels in cities or on different areas, with consumers that want to be linked small distance to those panels, and this is a digital platform. And we have here Repsol Foundation, who are now creating a product called Motor Verde, or green engine, if you may, where the aim of green energy, that's a lovely product, because it's not only a compensation platform for, again, creating that compensation, but the important thing is those credits are based in reforestation at Spain, in those areas known as like the empty Spain. I don't know if that's proper English, La España vaciada, no? The places where there's not so many people and inhabitants there. So there is a combination that takes a lot of technology there. In the group of people helping there is Hispasat and the European Space Agency also, which is certifying the creation of those forests in there. So I would say that more than one super big shot, there are many digital initiatives that are pointing to that net zero commitment. And mentioning finally the role of the customer there, as I mentioned, you can get in Vivid, our home application for your home consumption, all the information and advice and the energy management system of your home, getting, oh, maybe those habits are changing, maybe you change your equipment, maybe you change your, I don't know, dishwasher because it's taking too long, maybe you can put there at certain hours where the electricity is more based on renewable or not. So I think the key part of there is providing that customer all the information they need, to be part also of the solution in the transition.
Thanks a lot, Enrique. Jose, in your case?
Yes, in my case, I would like to explain a case study based on this energy transition that we have been talking. 5 years ago, we started to think that it was possible to bring industry to Spain, to the empty Spain Enrique was mentioning, based on solar energy, based on wind, based on storage, and based on the next generation funds of the European Union. And at the beginning, people thought we were crazy to really create jobs, to create industry in the middle of nowhere. No? Today, we have been able to bring a Silicon Valley multi-billion company to Trujillo to manufacture diamonds, to create diamonds from scratch, they are going to invest 1 billion, and they are going to create more than 1,000 jobs in Trujillo. And they are doing this not because Trujillo is a nice village, by the way it is, but because we have sun, we have space, we have the support of the European Union for this transition, and this dream that we had a few years ago is a reality today, no? And I think it's going to be one of the first ones, but it will come many more. And we are receiving calls from many people to do the same in other parts of Spain. So what really shows this example is that this dream that we can bring jobs, we can reindustrialize again Spain, especially because of space, sun, and the European funds, is possible. No? So that's why I wanted to share this example with all you.
Well, congratulations. In your case, Daniel?
Yeah, so in our case, the offshore wind industry is a relatively young industry, so there's plenty of things to be done to perfection it. And I'm gonna speak about 3 different quick examples of things that we are involved in that are going the extra mile or beyond what we do and are very, very related to innovation. So first example is an initiative where we are part of that is, well, wind is intermittent by nature, right? So when there's wind, you can produce energy. When there's no wind, then no energy. So we are trying in a project to couple wind with floating photovoltaics. So we are putting them together and see the relationship between the times when there is no wind, but there is sun, if we can mitigate that intermittency of wind. So to still produce energy for the needs of the customers. That project is also testing the same thing with an offshore wind farm plus waves generators. So this is buoys that move upwards and downwards with waves and produce energy. And we're coupling that with an offshore wind farm, again, to mitigate when there's no wind, but there's waves, we can still produce energy. That's one example. The second example is about nature and environment. So, building those infrastructures at the sea, it creates impacts on the environment, right? And we are required to mitigate those impacts by the relevant authorities. But we are going the extra mile in that, and we are planning to not only mitigate our impacts, but enhance the environment that we have around our structures. So apparently, fish like fixed structures in the sea. They go there, they find food, they find shelter, and they grow there. Okay, so we take advantage of having these huge steel structures there to install additional, these are like steel cages that give shelter to small fish so that they can grow. They are not eaten by bigger fish, so they can grow and grow population of certain species of fish around our wind farms, and therefore we are creating more fish population. So it's not only about mitigating, but also improving or enhancing what is there. And the last example is, because we are far away from the coast, it can be 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers away from the coast, the operations, the maintenance, the inspections of our wind turbines, our foundations, is a huge challenge. We have to send people there, jump onto these structures, maintain the things, inspection the things, and so on. So we are working in a project that is testing in sort of fake foundations installed offshore. We are testing robots there. We are testing drones and remotely operated vehicles, underwater vehicles, to understand the capabilities of those robots to do the inspections and also repairs and replace humans by that, and to not put human lives at risk, because when we go there, there's harsh conditions at the sea. There's weather, there's storms, there's big waves with vessels that we go there, and the more we can reduce the exposure of human beings to those conditions, the best for us. So we are testing those robots in these fake foundations, and the ones that are, performing best, we will test them in our real assets in the wind farms. So these are 3 examples of things that we are currently involved in that gives you an idea of how we can innovate this industry to make it even more efficient.
Perfect. Well, thanks a lot for your answers. Congratulations. We're running out of time, so last question. Everything that you have tell us is very beautiful, really nice, but this is not an easy path and an easy way. What are the challenges you foresee in the coming years for the development of your companies, this industry, starting with Jose?
Well, I think we have many challenges. I think that this transformation is going to take time, and this is also very fantastic for creating new companies. So it's not going to be 1 year, 2 years, it could be 30 years. Secondly, we need to make sure we don't destroy things creating other ones. So we need to be sometimes careful with jobs, with all technologies. So I think we need to be careful on that. We're going to find many, many, many problems. People will say storage is very expensive. Electric vehicle will not happen because you cannot charge because I have a flat and I cannot. Everybody has always a problem on the table. But what we need to understand is that we need to believe that this change is going to happen. We need to continue working and fighting to solve all these problems, because we will see cities without smoke of cars. We will see a sustainable world with green energy, 100%. We will see that.
Perfect. Daniel?
Yeah, I think in our case, in the offshore wind industry, the challenge, I think, to be tackled is the reduction of the cost of producing 1 unit of energy. In the last 10 years, the industry has managed to slash by 3 the costs of producing 1 unit of energy. But we still need to make a bigger effort in order to make it even more efficient and cheaper, in order to make it even more competitive with other sources of energy production, of renewable energy production. And that's the case specifically for what we call floating wind. I lied to you a little bit in the beginning. I said we have fixed structures on the seabed, but it's not entirely true. We also have floating foundations for places where the water depth is too high. We cannot put fixed structures because the structure will be so huge that it's not cost efficient. So we put turbines on top of floaters. And this floating offshore wind industry, which is already being commercialized, we have one of the 3 only projects in the world in Portugal. It needs to be achieving the same parity of cost with fixed offshore wind, because floating is essential when you go further offshore, because further offshore you have more wind, more stable winds. So we need to go further offshore with deeper waters, and then develop the floating wind industry. And we have to reduce the costs of that industry in order to make it even more competitive of what it is today. That's the challenge for our industry, I would say.
Perfect. Enrique, the last minute and a half, what is your challenge?
Some experience on floating structure on the sea. We're also part of that project in Portugal and big linkages. In our case, and dealing specifically with digital, and it may seem a little bit ironic being in a place as we are today with such a huge amount of talent here gathering together. I think that as a country and as a sector, we need to state that the talent, in fact, and the capability to attract talent to our projects or to our initiatives and to our products is one of the key challenges. No? I think that technology is evolving very rapidly, but despite all the concerns of that the machines are going to replace humans in everything, in fact, for everything that we put related with a machine, we need humans around making those machines happen, no? And the scarcity of that well-trained talent for dealing with those new capabilities of AI, machine learning, even those customer engagement techniques based more on digital engagements and so on and so forth. That's really hard. Madrid is blooming at these days. Spain is becoming very attractive for those talent, and we are struggling in certain ways to find all the capabilities that we need. And the answer for that in many occasions is cooperation. We need to find ways to cooperate between companies, between entities, and making partnerships with entities and companies that normally were not used to make those partnerships in the past. So the capability to create those partners is one of the key attributes these days.
Well, thanks a lot. I told you that it was going to be a really interesting panel, thanks to our speakers. And that's been all. I hope you have enjoyed this time with us. So thank you very much, and thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.